Jung Sung-wook sits in his son's bedroom. It's been empty for the last 10 years. His son was one of 304 people killed when a passenger ferry sank off the southern coast of South Korea 10 years ago, in the worst maritime disaster in the country's history. For Jung, it feels like yesterday.
이런 상황이 있으니까 너무 아수라장이었고 한마디로는 지옥이라고 하는 표현이 아마 맞을 거예요. 그러니까.
Most of the people killed were high school students on a school trip. Some documented the disaster on their cell phones as the ferry began to tilt. A voice over the speaker repeatedly telling them to stay put. While the captain and crew members abandoned ship and were the first to be rescued. Within hours, the ferry was underwater, and the families of the passengers on shore and distraught.
거의 2시간인데 왜 못 빠져나와요?
거기 가셔서 해양경찰
아니 그게 어떤 놈이 시간 선시대에 들어가 있으라 그랬냐고 도대체 말이 안 되는 거예요.
The disaster shocked the country, clear that it was man-made. The ferry had been illegally redesigned and overloaded with cargo. The crew was inexperienced, and the Coast Guard slow to respond. Anger turned into action. There was an intense public response, and in the years that followed, the captain of the MV Sewol ferry was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison. Crew members were jailed along with employees of the shipping company, which went bankrupt and shut down. The company's owner found dead after a month-long manhunt. And the disaster sparked the process of then-President Park Geun-hye's impeachment. But it's left a much deeper impact on the country.
I think it's equally important to not dismiss the kind of broader cultural change that Sewol disaster and the movement of the victims, the affected communities has brought about in South Korea. The Sewol disaster was unprecedented in many ways, not just the disaster itself, but the fact that it incited a nationwide movement.
And 10 years on, the victims' families are still pushing for the country to improve its disaster response, to ensure this does not happen again.
저 피해자 가족들이 납득이 되는 납득이 되지 않는 한 계속 저희는 싸울 겁니다. 그 길이 아무리 험한 길이라도 싸워 나갈 거고요.
The sinking of the Sewol ferry continues to affect political and cultural life in South Korea. Each year, yellow ribbons are worn in remembrance and serve as a symbol of the citizen movement powerful enough to bring down a government. Patrick Chen and Herel Hughes for TaiwanPlus.